65-year-old black man. He came walking over from the neighborhood. They heard the explosion. And he comes over and he's asked me, what's going on? What are you doing here?
Right.
And I said, well, I saw the fire and I came over and decided to pray for the firemen and the people in the apartment building. And he looks at me and he said, are you a Christian? And I said, yes, sir, I am. And he said, kind of choked up. He said, I used to be a Christian. And he just started crying. And I was like, I put my hand on his shoulder and I said, what happened? What drew you away? And he said, when I was going through the most painful moment of my life, I didn't feel like he was there. He wasn't there for me. And I said, I know exactly how that feels. I know exactly how that feels.
Hey, welcome to God's Glory and Men's Real Stories. I'm glad you're here. And if you're listening for the first time or you're back for another great episode, I want to thank you for joining us. I want to start by letting you know that your story and what you may be going through, they matter. And you're not alone. So try not to worry about what chapter you're in, or if you think you're behind, because the truth is you're right where God wants you. And it's not a coincidence that you're here with the community that cares about you and hopes that you feel God's love as well as see God's glory in Men's Real Stories. So before we get started, do something for me. Let me know you've been here by clicking that thumbs up in the lower corner. That's a way of showing me and my guests love for these conversations. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, go ahead and click it now. You don't want this to be the last conversation you enjoy here. And I can't thank you enough for your support. Know that this podcast is nothing without you and the men who God has put it on their hearts to saying yes to joining me. Like today's special guest, who God positioned us both to be in the same coffee shop one morning. And something I said caught his attention. And I happened to look over and he was looking straight at me as if I were talking directly to him. And he eventually came over to me. And as we began to talk, I recognized that what I may have said that brought him over, it was solely in just the church, me having church with another person. And since, we've met, we've been doing life since that day. And the best part about this man is that I appreciate that he's never hid his emotions, which let me know that his strength is in deeply feeling it and feeling it all as we go on this imperfect journey of ours to follow Christ. So I'd like to welcome our brother, Rudy Hayden, to the episode. What's going on, bro? What's going on, man? Yes, sir.
Good to be here.
Yeah.
You had a hiccup. I've heard you speak a lot. You had a hiccup in there. You're going to have to edit it out.
Man, listen, dude, you'd be surprised how many hiccups I have when I'm doing this stuff, just running off the top of my head. And more importantly, it's funny because I think to myself, like, I know Rudy knows me, but like, how do I share a little bit of who Rudy is in my life so that people even understand how these journeys of two brothers doing life together even start, how they start? Because sometimes, people think that we meet at a bar and it's like, hey man, what kind of beer you drinking? Oh, okay, I like IPAs. Yeah, well, send me one over. And they don't realize that, like, sometimes these things start from a space of like, maybe I was praying and I asked God to show me my next move. And next thing I know, I feel like God has turned my attention to these two guys talking, and I can't help but overhear what they may have said that may have made me say, okay, what is this guy doing and where has he been on and what has happened in his life that has allowed him to get here? And I think about it. If I hadn't been having that conversation with somebody else, then we wouldn't be having this conversation today. So I think the beauty of it all is that God positions us in these perfect spaces to like be able to minister to one another and, more importantly, continue to do life outside of just, sitting in front of cameras, because we do this regularly, right?
I'm an emotional person.
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna take like breathing and like for me to not like get emotional and choked up about that day in the coffee shop.
Yeah. Well, before we even get started, how about this? This? You introduce yourself before we even roll into that, because I want you to know that you got all the time and the space today to breathe through every bit of this, because the truth is that every time we sit down and do this, every time we have conversations, it's not one of those like quick, hey, what's your favorite birthday date? Where we shoot out these quick answers. It's really a stop and processing of like, wow, how did I feel in that moment? Wow, what did happen in that moment? So how about you start with just introducing yourself a little bit?
Yeah, so my name is Rudy Hayden. I'm originally from Falls Church, Virginia. I'm 48 years old. Was baptized in the Catholic Church. Youngest of, I have two older siblings. Both my mother and father were raised in Owensboro, Kentucky. My dad is the youngest of 14 children. I have 64 first cousins on my dad's side.
Jeez.
I moved down to Charlotte, North Carolina after college with about 5 or 6 close college buddies that still live in Charlotte that I'm really close with. And yeah, I got a bank job, wasn't happy, bought a truck, packed up the truck and lived out of my truck for about 2 years and traveled and led trips for at-risk youth. Meanwhile, started working at a store part-time. The guy who hired me helped bring me to Christ. And I've still been working there 25 years later.
Yeah.
I'm married to a wonderful woman named Sarah. I have 2 children, 2 boys, that Reed and Thomas. They're 13 and 11. And yeah, I'm just it's been a wild ride, and I'm just now beginning to understand the story and the path that God's creating in my life.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. Yeah.
It's scary.
It is.
It's like,
right?
what am I doing here?
Yeah.
Like, how did I get here? But I know there's no such thing as coincidences anymore.
For sure. Yeah. You know what? It's funny you say that, because like, at what point did you realize like, oh shoot, so like this coincidence thing is really like you, God, just kind of like positioning us, and like nothing is a surprise to you, even if it's a surprise to us as we try to like, wait, so you mean to tell me you, okay, like how many times have you done that where you're like, you knew though?
Yeah, I mean, so many times. And like, for people that I know that are just now kind of discovering their faith, like when I really first started to like discover my faith, I really discovered it through other people that were believers, and that shepherded me and kind of brought me in, and like that's how I really began to experience God, was through other people, just like in the coffee shop.
Yeah.
Meeting you.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. I don't know if I ever asked you. So what was it that you heard that day in the coffee shop that just kind of made you be like, because I remember looking up, and it was almost like for a split second, I looked at you and it was like I was talking to you, because the way you were looking at me, it was like, all right, so I have an audience. I thought I was like, okay. And even in that moment, I had no idea what God was going to do next over like the next month, 2 months. But like, it was just like, oh, okay, well,
Yeah, so like I'm just like one of those types of people. Like I love talking to strangers. One of my favorite pastimes is hitchhiking. Just meeting complete random people, and I couldn't help but overhear your conversation. I knew it was, spirit driven and faith driven. And then, I do love and admire about you. You have a very charismatic, very welcoming personality. And we made that, I looked over there, I was like, all right, I'm just going to get up and introduce myself to these guys.
Yeah.
And then we made that eye contact.
Yeah.
And then I just felt, called really by the Holy Spirit, and just a desire to meet you and just introduce myself and kind of be like, put it in God's hands, be like, all right.
Yeah.
This is a moment in time where God is like, encourage me to get up and say, hey.
Yeah. And it's funny because I've had those moments before where it sounded crazy in my head. Like, no, you don't do that. You don't just get up and like introduce yourself to people. Matter of fact, I had it just like this past weekend where everything in me was like, no, don't do that. But here I was like, hey man, what's your name? And it sounded so weird because, everything in me was like, I've said this before. That's not what guys do. Guys don't just introduce themselves or like call out to another dude to be like, hey man, what's your name, dude? So it felt uncomfortable and weird, but everything about it felt right. Like I've got to, because I feel like I may never get the opportunity again. And I don't know why, but I feel called to like talk to this guy. And that's literally what I said to somebody this past weekend. Like, dude, I don't know why, but I feel like I'm supposed to connect with you. And so I would love to get on your calendar to connect with you. And I just kind of let God take it from there of like, okay, well, what happens next, God? Like, why are you calling me to speak to this person? And then just kind of, as you said, you feel that pull of the Holy Spirit to say, this is a person you should connect with. So what next? Like, how does this play out next? And I think that's when we went on a journey of just like, wow, okay, we both have so much in our lives that we're still working through and unpacking and living through and adjusting to. And you know a lot of my story, but I'm excited about hearing more of yours today of just like what God has done, not only maybe before we met, but also like how he began to, as I like to call it, he began to chase after your heart and bring you closer to him as he took you on a journey, on a story that he was dying to get the pen back to begin to write and to do so many other things in your life, even through all the things that have already been done and the things that you're currently seeing, you know? I know.
You know, when you have just like so much, you have so much in your head, you don't know what to say or how to put it out there, because there's like, you know, there's just so much.
Yeah. We'll start with this.
Yeah.
Where did you first feel God's call on your life? In your day-to-day life? And I know you said you were baptized a long time ago, but like, when did you begin to feel like God was calling you to a life that you had not begun to live yet?
Yeah, so thanks for the follow-up question. I was rebaptized as an adult probably maybe 2010 or 12. And my wife and I were involved in a two becoming one group, a marriage kind of discipleship group. Mm. And one of the leaders of the group became a mentor of mine. And, you know, it was like one of those, I was like, man, I want what he's got. Like, I began to admire people who had a strong faith and who had a close relationship with God. And I was like, you know, I want that. And I was like, I'm ready to recommit, you know, my life to the Lord. And so I got rebaptized. And then I kind of just was still, asking and knocking and searching, but still just floundering all the time. All the time.
And when you say floundering, like what did that look like in your life? Because I noticed that may be different for a lot of guys, but like, how did that normally look in your life?
Having really no lack of direction, no purpose, no fulfillment. I was still living probably very selfishly, making risky decisions, risky choices. I had no real direction. That's always something I've lacked and I've always wanted. Yeah. And I have so much interest and passion in so many things. Right. But I never felt like I was never really excelled in anything. And so I would just kind of spin my wheels and just flounder. Right. Right. And, and then COVID happened, and I have struggled with depression most of my adult life. It was manageable for 15, 20 years until the walls came crashing down.
Mm. And was that during like COVID? Was that like, did it really settle in or like resonate more during COVID when like a lot of people recognized that they couldn't really distract themselves with a lot of things they were doing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure COVID played a part in it, just because COVID was just so strange and bizarre and challenging for so many people.
Yeah.
You know, some of the choices and my behaviors leading up to when I went into a really deep, dark depression, I think contributed to that, along with just like, you know, everything else. You know, I believe mental illness it's a very complex illness. It's
Sure.
mental, physical, it's spiritual, it's emotional, it's genetic, right? So there's all these components to it. And yeah, I just I went through hell, man.
Yeah.
I went through hell. That was probably starting in 2021, maybe 2020. It's hard to look.
Yeah.
2021, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it started.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, I've tried everything. I've been through a bunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I probably have some. I PTSD is definitely a part of my story. I was the victim of a home invasion in 2006. So yeah, there's just so many layers, right? And yeah, I mean, I spent a month in an inpatient mental hospital at Hopeway here in Charlotte. I was admitted to the hospital, the 24-hour emergency psychiatric hospital for, you know, being suicidal.
Right.
I've done so much.
So I'm just curious and all of that. Like, what did that begin to? I'm sure that began to like tell you something, or almost like narrate this story of who you were, and what your life may look like as. I don't know how you may have considered it, but what did you label it all when you were looking at all the stuff and dealing with like all of these moments of like fighting with your mental illness and also trying to exist to everybody else the same way you had been struggling with the mental illness and mental health challenges that you were fighting through?
Yeah, I think I began.
Take your time, man.
I think I began to realize that
Yeah,
that my way of life wasn't working.
Yeah,
I realized I can't do it on my own.
yeah,
And then I needed something bigger and greater than myself to like figure life out, so to speak.
yeah. That's real. Is it fair to say that at some point in your life, you had been told that like the way of a man is to grab hold of life, to pull up your bootstraps, to fight through it and be the warrior of your own story, and nobody was coming to save you in a manner of speaking, like this is your own battle to fight, and if you can't fight it, nobody else can.
Oh yeah, I mean absolutely. Like I was under the mentality for so long of like you're the creator of your destiny, you're the master of your destiny. And my destiny wasn't something that I was proud of.
Yeah. No, I think I was one of the first few conversations we were talking about where it was like, why does it seem so hard? And I think we always do this individually as ourselves. We say, why does it seem so hard for me to get hold of my life and to play this role well, to manage this, and then see this one coming, wild card, I'm also now having my own internal fight, my own mental fight, my own spiritual fight going on inside, while also dealing with all the pressure of this world. And there was no book and there was nobody that ever really said these things. So here we're just kind of like, all right, well, I'll just smile. Nobody can tell what's going on inside. I'll just smile and we'll take one of the problems at a time. But like, I'll just ignore my stuff and I'll just keep shelving it until I get a moment to breathe. But let's be real. Like, I don't know about you, but it felt like the moment of breathe, even when I got those moments, I was exhausted. So I just go to sleep and hope that when I woke up, the stuff that I was talking about shelving would just disappear. It just wouldn't be there anymore. How was that for you when it came to like that stint in 2021 where things just started to like, you started to realize that, oh, okay, so I'm not going to be able to multitask all of this?
Well, given I've been battling this since, 2000, I've got some experience. I've got I tell my wife I've got a pretty good tool bag and a support network right now. Praise God. But back when stuff really, really got bad, I didn't, I did ask for help. People knew that, I was really sick.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I was so sick. Like, I was like almost catatonic. Like, my soul was like, the way that I describe it is my soul was nauseous. It was nauseous. And yeah, it was just a downward spiral. I mean, I became not quite catatonic, but pretty darn close.
Now you have to break down catatonic. What is catatonic? Like,
catatonic is like you can't speak, you can't get up, you can't do like daily activities. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So I mean, I tried. I did meditation. I did ketamine therapy. I've done all kinds of therapy. I did so many different therapies and modalities. I can't keep up, but it's like a list this long.
Right.
And then it wasn't until a close friend of mine, connected me to somebody else who had a similar type experience that I'd never met, but he put me in touch with this guy. And this guy, a similar story, ended up doing electroconvulsive therapy, ECT, which is what you see Jack Nicholson go through in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, think of the stigma associated with that.
Yeah.
And so, but I was close to leaving this earth. I was really close for like daily for a long time, like a year. And that was a last ditch effort. And, they essentially, put you under anesthesia and administer electric shocks through your brain and administer a seizure. So I did that for a year.
Wow.
I did that for a year.
Wow.
And so that kind of, sends a pulse through your system and through your brain to physically shake you out of the catatonia or, whatever is going on.
Right.
For that gave me the ability to like even comprehend, what's next.
Right.
Because I was I was 12 feet underground.
Sheesh.
Yeah, man.
Wow. What? So what did I'm sure during this time, your family was probably looking and trying to understand because I'm sure your wife knew a little bit about, a lot of this stuff before you even kind of went into this space,
yes.
Right? And so she it wasn't like it was like one day he's fine and the next day I don't know what's going on.
No.
Like how did that shake out in your family and everything with everything?
We're still processing it.
Yeah.
My wife probably suffers, or she turned into a caregiver. So I think there's some probably PTSD from being a caregiver and going through that experience.
Yeah.
When I was, at Hopeway for a month, when I was doing all these different treatments, and then I was doing ECT. Yeah, it was just, looking back, like, it was so scary, so bizarre, and just so out of this world. And it's a miracle I'm still here.
Yeah. Do you ever see it from a standpoint, or ever wonder why? Like, do you ever ask that question, God, what was your plan? What's your plan for me? And the fact that you've kept me here, like, what was?
Well, I think I was ready to surrender. Now, during that period, I was praying, I was reading books, I was reading the Psalms, I was meditating, but nothing resonated. Nothing resonated. Nothing. I felt so far from the Lord, and I even began to question whether he was still there.
Yeah.
And in those deepest, darkest moments, I didn't feel or sense him there. But looking back, like, he was there the whole time.
Right.
And he, I've got notes of when, like, some of my closest friends came over to my house and prayed for me on my back deck. And I've got this scripture written out in James about, consider it pure joy.
Yeah.
Trials and tribulations. Now, in that moment when my buddy was reading that, I'm like, dude, get out of here.
Yeah.
No, I don't. No.
Yeah.
But now looking back, I look at that handwritten note, that scripture, and I'm like, I see it now.
Yeah.
And I see it now, and I see, I was there. He had me there for a reason.
Yeah.
He had me there for a reason.
And
I believe it.
That's so real. Like, consider it pure joy. There's nothing about this that feels joyful right now. Like, I can't imagine. It's almost like, we both understand how important the fact that sometimes what we experience, how we feel about things, is valid. But it almost felt, and when I read that the first time, it felt invalidating to the pain I had gone through, and that somebody's here saying, consider it pure joy. And I don't understand how, because I think a lot of my mind was programmed that joy feels good, because I looked at happiness and joy as the same thing. So I'm curious, how did you see that? Because I'm sure that I personally believe that a lot of our stance or viewpoint on joy is based on momentary feeling, instead of realizing that joy is an expression of our faith that says, regardless how I feel, regardless what's going on, I'm not invalidating or overlooking it or spiritually bypassing it, but I'm recognizing that my joy still comes from God, even when it doesn't feel joyful. But I think that, based on what you just described, if I feel far from God, then it is hard to feel the joy that he provides in those moments where I am going through hell.
Oh, it's so hard to wrap your mind and heart around.
Yeah.
I'm just now beginning to understand and realize that, feelings they're real, they're valid, but they're not true all the time.
Yeah.
They are not true all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm now beginning to realize, there's so much about mindset and what we believe. And I'm reading and understanding scripture more, and trying to focus on what scripture says about me and about us versus what I say about myself.
Ooh, sheesh, that's good. Listen, that in itself is a whole, that's a whole master class in breaking through the barrier of how we see ourselves to understand how he sees us and begin to believe that over what we've been saying about ourselves or believing about ourselves. Which is what I was asking you earlier about, like, did you ever get stuck in that space of like, I'm always going to be dealing with mental illness. I'm going to be stuck in some type of hospital forever. I'll never be able to provide or protect for my family. They'll have to do that for me because this is my life. And this is pretty much how it's going to be. And did you ever feel like you got stuck believing that about yourself?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the only reason I decided to stick around and not end my life was for, my family and my friends.
Yeah.
I just couldn't, when you think about that, I just couldn't, so that was and I have friends and know people that God's put in my life that are going through like the place that I was in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, just try and find one reason to stick around. Just one.
Grab hold of it.
Just grab one thing. One little seed, one little bit of hope to hang on.
Yeah.
And that was what I was hanging on to.
Yeah. I think I used to fight with the idea that I heard that sometimes our decisions to like say, okay, I don't think I can do this anymore, they're selfish decisions because of the people that are around us that need us. But I end up coming to the conclusion that, like, so many times people say that our decisions are selfish when we don't think about others, but they happen long before we stopped or people thought we weren't thinking about others. It was when we stopped thinking about ourselves and put everybody else before ourselves, and we had abandoned us in a way. And so when we get to the end of that road where we're looking at giving up, it's not because we're not thinking about others. It's just because we've never thought about ourselves.
Yeah, just trying to manage and control. I mean, that's what most of the world does. Mm-hmm. Is try and manage and control every little thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was trying to do that, but even when I was good at that, I still thought I was not good enough. And I wasn't successful. And so then now I realize, I can't do life on my own.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I surrender each morning.
Yeah.
Because I know I can't do it.
Yeah. Well, it's powerful how you just said, I got to those moments where I felt like I wasn't good enough. And I think that a lot of us feel that I'm not good enough. I'm not enough for these situations. And I don't know who told me one time, they were like, the truth is that you were never meant to be enough, because if you could do it in all your strength, if you could do it all and you were enough for every situation, then why would you need God? Like what would be God's purpose in our life if we could just do it all and we were enough for every situation? And so it's as you said, it's like the surrender to say, like, God, I'm only enough as far as my strength will go, as far as my ability can go, as far as I can even control the slightest bit of this stuff. But everything, we don't realize it's not in our control until it's out of control, and we're still trying to grab hold of life. And I think that surrender was what it was. For me, it was a surrender and the giving him all of me, like saying, okay, like, I've given you my life when things got bad. I've been like, okay, God, the wheel's all yours. When things have gotten really shaky, what can you do if you have the wheel all the time and I'm just on board. I'm a participant. I'm willing and able to be used however you want to use me. I am surrendered to you. Almost always, for some reason, always think in surrender. I've said this before. You remember the Planet of the Apes movie where like they do like this, as if almost like a way of saying, I surrender to you. Like I bow my head to whatever, I'm in your control. I think there's so much to that in saying, God, I surrender my life to what you want to do and allow you to work through me, and know that it won't just be like I'm a slave, because we're going to be a slave to something. So we are a slave, but I'm a slave to someone who wants to do things for my good and his glory. And so it's not just like this, I gave my life to God and now here I am just standing out on the street corner screaming at everybody who's not giving their life to Christ or whatever. And I'm not saying anything's wrong with that, but I'm just saying like sometimes people only see the bad side of it, of like, well, I don't want to give God my full life. What did you do with those thoughts of like?
Well, I'm still dealing with them. Yeah, like I'm still dealing with them. So like, not until recently, I guess within the last, year, I've really started to understand like what true trust in the Lord like looks like or feels like. And I still don't know what the story will look like and what my purpose or like what my calling is.
Yeah.
But I'm more okay than ever now being okay with not knowing, but knowing that he's got me.
Yeah, that's
based on like what he's brought me through.
Yeah,
like all the crap I've been through.
Yeah.
Like there's something there. I don't know what it is, but there's something.
Right.
And I'm okay with like not having to control in what that is, but then there's the trust in being like okay with that.
Yeah.
Being okay with that.
So what held you back from trusting him with your life? Like just fully giving it to him in the beginning? And I think that's different for everybody. I'm just curious, what was yours?
I think probably like realizing that like Scripture is the living, breathing Word of God, and knowing that it's like the instruction manual for life.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I would say is like I've got like so many mentors, and like all the most joyful, content people in my life that I'm close with, they all have one thing in common. And that's a relationship with the Lord.
Yeah.
And it's like, I want that.
Yeah.
I want that. What does that look like? I'm not really sure, but I think the first thing it requires is trust.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers your question.
No, that does. No, listen. That matter of fact, not only did it answer my question, but I love how you said that the one thing that all your mentors had in common was that they had a relationship with Christ. Not just they went to church every Sunday, but like they had a relationship with Christ. So it was almost like it was bigger than just this thing they did. Like we all show up here and our lives just get better. It's like, no, it
gets harder. It gets harder.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah. No. Okay.
It doesn't get easier.
I wasn't even going to hit on that yet because that little. I think that's the part that most people don't realize, that in giving your life to Christ and walking with Him on this relationship, it gets harder, because for the longest I believed it, and I'm sure you probably thought it too. Like, okay, well, if I just give my life to Christ and have this relationship, life will get easier. like He'll make it easier for me. He doesn't want me to have a hard life, but I recognize that it's not just about what God's going to do and all He's done to get you to this point, but it's about the fact that He's calling us into a space of recognizing that I want you to not just experience my goodness, but also realize that there is going to be suffering in that. There's going to be suffering. And as I've said before, it's like I want you to be more like Christ, but know that in Christ's life, he suffered. And so know that this won't be like this easy walk, this beautiful, like rose petal covered field, this lily lit field where I get to just frolic for the rest of my life and just enjoy God's goodness as we have a relationship. I recognize that our relationship may also look like, hey, God, here comes that bully again. He's coming back. He looks like he has boxing gloves on this time. I think he wants to fight, God. I think he's ready to fight. Are we fighting today? Like, and that's how our days look sometimes. And sometimes, I don't know about you, but some of the biggest fights sometimes come through some of the people we love the most. And I know we've talked a lot about how I feel like I may be having like these great days. I'm going through great streaks of life. I'm going through moments where like, man, God, okay, like, ooh, I think the storm is going past. I think I'm stepping out of a storm now. And then I have these moments where I wake up and it's like I haven't even got outside the house and like my wife may invite me into a fight. And I'm like, wait, like, not you, not you. Like, God, what's happening? Like, this, I pray over this family. Why are they coming after me? And I think that's the part of like our relationships that I won't say we get it wrong, but like our marriages where we believe like, God has sent me here to provide and protect for these people. And I feel like they are so ungrateful sometimes. Like, do you see all that I'm doing? And it feels like God is calling me to do a lot more in my family than just provide and protect for them. Because the healing that needs to happen is not just here. It's not just in here. The healing needs to go outside of here to continue to heal my family and heal the things that have happened in my relationship and heal the moments that I've hurt even my kids. I've done things that have caused their trust to kind of like sway, to cause them to not know how to talk to me about things. And I know we've talked about some of those things. How do you feel like that God has played a huge role even when it came to like in your home? How he continues to play a role, because I know this is an ongoing thing.
Well, like we said, like when you kind of trust and put your faith in the Lord and surrender, things don't get easier, they get harder.
Yeah.
And I think that's because, at least for myself, you realize, you see the things in yourself that you don't like. The sin becomes, you become much more acutely aware of your sin because of that.
Yeah.
And that's really hard to deal with.
Yeah.
You know, the pride, the greed, you know, all those things. And so, you know, for me in my home, yeah, I've got to reflect the fruits of the Spirit. And I haven't been doing a really good job of that. And so that's been the thing that I'm trying to hand over to the Lord and to have him guide and shape and mold and protect us so that our marriage can be saved, and that, you know, this mess that we've been in and we're going through can be a message. I'm stealing this from somebody else. I'm stealing this from praise and prayer at our church.
Okay.
And the testing, you know, the tribulation becomes a testimony.
Yeah.
So I believe in that now, and I know he's at work and he's working in and through us, but it's still really, really hard.
Yeah.
So my wife and I are there was a point where there have been many points where I didn't think we were going to make it when she said she wanted to leave. And, I cried out to God, like, Lord, oh gosh, this now? After all I've been through this? But
yeah,
he's got us right where he wants us, and it's going to turn into something, and I hope it turns into something that would glorify him.
Yeah. I think, do you think it all glorifies him regardless of the outcome? Like, if it doesn't, let's just say, and I'll use me for an example. If me and my wife had never gotten back together, do you still think that story would have brought him glory, in spite of what everybody would like to see, which is always a happy ending, the perfect story of like how these two just continue to collide and continue to just like run into each other, and they went their own ways. And I know everybody always says, well, God wants to see us together. He wants us to work it out. And I recognize that when that happens, there's a story of like, wow, I'll give God the praise. But the other day, somebody inquired or even asked me, they said, is God still good when it doesn't work out the way you thought it would work out? It doesn't work out the way most people would like it to work out. Is he still good when the story is not quite the way you had seen it coming, Disney had seen it coming, any Hallmark movie would have seen it coming? Is he still good? And that one just kind of set on me. And it made me think about all of the things that I had to walk away from, that I cried about as I had to like open my hands and release them. And how much that hurt. How much I couldn't sleep at night sometimes over some of those things. And here I am still recognizing that in spite of that, God is still good. It wasn't that he was still good. He is still good. Even though it came at the cost of me feeling like I was ripped from some of the things that I loved the most. And I'm just curious, like how, like even in you crying out to God, how is that felt, knowing that he's in full control and it may not look the way we've kind of seen it going or how we want it to go in our heads?
That's a great question. I don't know that I feel smart enough to answer it.
Oh no.
Or that. But like, I mean, God is good all the time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's, and I can't cite the scripture right now.
It's his character.
It's his character.
Yeah, to be good all the time. To be
good all the time, and yet bad things happen to good people every day, and we just don't. A lot of times we're not going to know this side of the sun, this side of heaven.
Yeah,
we're not going to know.
Yeah, for sure.
But we may know. A year after going through mental hospitals and a year of doing ECT, we may, after all that and all that patience, we may then begin to see his goodness.
Yeah.
So in those situations, like if it doesn't actually materialize to what the world thinks is giving God glory, I think I would hope in those situations I would sit and listen and wait for him to tell me what is still good, what is good. I think that's what, I don't know that I'd be very good at it, but I think that's what it would require in those situations.
Yeah. No, I believe that, as they say, waiting on God, it brings forth and allows you to see his goodness as he continues to shape things, even when the shaping comes through like this storm that tries to just whip past you and say, oh man, it's gonna look so bad. Oh man, it's gonna look nothing like it looked before. Oh man, you're gonna lose everything, man. Don't you see it? And you're not even trying to do anything. You're just sitting here still, waiting on God. Do you trust him that much? And I think there comes this moment where you have to question whether, I think it gets us all where it's like, do I trust him that much? Like in spite of everything that's happening right now, do I trust him that much? Oh, there's another one. I lost another one. Do you still trust him? Like, it always makes me think about the story of Job. Like, okay, they're all dead now. Do you still trust him? I know people like to say that like God knows how much we can take, and he'll never put more on us than we can handle. But I don't think that we know how much we can handle and what God is doing in our lives to mold us through the stuff that we thought would kill us.
Yeah, and I've come to discover, and I don't know the whole verse, but you know, his power is shown in our weakness, and I believe that, and I trust in that.
Yeah, for sure.
And in the pain is turning into purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yep, 100%. I agree with that. Matter of fact, I feel like if you don't live by that, then you will think the pain was pointless. And you will think the things I've been through, I should be ashamed and hide those things. And I think me and you have talked about that before, of like the fact that we can be vulnerable about things that bring us a lot of shame shows us both that like God's going to use this. There's shame attached to that, and God's still going to use that. Like what shames me is going to bring him glory. And so if I can recognize that it's in, as you said, my weakness, what looks weak to others, what looks like, you did what? You allow what? You said what? And you think God will be proud of that? And it's like, so you sit with that for a second. You're like, you're right. He probably won't. I should be ashamed of that. I shouldn't have ever said that. Like God will never forgive me for that. And God's like, no. I need you to hold it out. I always think about it like the staff that Moses had. I need you to hold it out. I need you to hold it up. I need you to give it to me. I need you to recognize that it's in what you are most ashamed of that I'm going to use in a way to bring not only others closer to me, but to allow them to see what I can do even when it looks the worst. And I think that comforts me a lot, in that, God, I can mess up. I think we both have recognized that we can mess up really good. Like I'm good at messing up, God. Like, you want to see me tear this up? I can tear it up. I've sabotaged things that I didn't know how God was going to put back together. I have all but like eaten some of the puzzle pieces and been like, well, never be a whole puzzle. Like, it'll never be a whole puzzle again, God. And God just brings forth a piece that just fits and brings the whole picture back together. And I'm like,
wow. Yeah.
Well, how about that? Let's talk about like the impossible happening. That's a miracle for you. But I think he continues to like do that in our lives. I think he continues to do that through moments like follow this guy up to the mountains and see what I have for you. Meet with this guy every once in a while for coffee and talk about some of the things that are causing you so much pain right now that you can't sleep at night. And I think there's so much strength in like just us doing this. It's not like we sit down and we talk about these things on a podcast, but it's like me and you sitting down and doing this over coffee regularly is what strengthens us. It allows us to encourage each other. It allows us to see things that the other like can't see because I'm in the storm. Like, man, I got these goggles on over here and I'm just covered with water, and I'm just like, don't worry, I'm going to be your eyes right now. And what God is showing me is that he's not done yet. He's right in front of you. I know you can't see him, but he's right in front of you. He's guiding you. He's leading you. And I think that's the beauty of our relationship, or any relationship, where a man can sit down and say, I need you to take this journey with me. I think that's what a lot of men who may be listening are missing. Like, they're trying to do this alone.
Yeah, I was going to interject, and I would say, if you're struggling and you're not sure what's going on, you need to talk to somebody. Therapy is a great place to start. Therapy is
100%
is critical, and it's important. I almost find more value in more therapy in shared relationships with another man that is either discipling me or I'm discipling them, and they're pursuing a relationship with the Lord. I get fed by that and so encouraged. And I'm involved with F3. F3 is an amazing men's organization that was founded in Charlotte, and they call that a shield lock.
Yeah.
Being locked with shields with another man. Another one of my buddies says, he calls it the hashtag is FMH, foxhole mother. Like somebody you're in the foxhole with. Pardon my French.
Yeah.
But having those people and I'm just so grateful, and like the Lord has blessed me incredibly with godly men that, like yourself, that I'm just so encouraged and fed by. It's I'm just grateful and honored.
Yeah. No, and I think this. Well, I don't think. I know this is how God always had planned for. Like he wanted us in community, but he knew that if we believed that our job was to do it ourselves and to isolate and to step back from everybody, that if we took that road would lead to our destruction. And I think we have both realized that road leads, like we have run all the way up against that line of like, oh, okay, so this is where it takes me. And I think it was nothing but God's grace that brought us back from that space and keeps us from going back to that space. But I think, like you said, it's the parameters, it's the men that He's put around us that like watch us, that like check in on us, that say, hey man, just you done got quiet over there, dude. Like, what you been doing? Like, how's life treating you? What's going on? Let's grab some coffee. I think there's so much to that. I think if nothing else, I was telling somebody, I think this podcast shows men what it looks like to find a brother that you can do life with and have these conversations and question each other about certain things besides like, well, how did my team do? How did your team do? like what's your job looking like these days? How much they paying you? Like because at the end of the day, none of that really sets our hearts on fire. None of that makes us come alive. It's in getting out and doing something, an activity, an adventure together. I mean, even when we were walking up here, you were like, man, we should get together and bike. I was like, yeah, for sure. But it's through those relationships and it's through doing that we come alive and we can encourage each other, even in spite of like some of the things that are going on in our lives, because it's hard to be around a brother who's like, man, I think my daughter's really pissed at me right now, man, because I said something and she hasn't spoken to me. And have somebody say, you know what? Your daughter loves you, bro. And yeah, she might be mad at you right now, and she might not have the words to express her anger. But at the end of it, she wouldn't be as mad as she was if she didn't love you. And I think, and that could go in so many different directions, whether it's a son, whether it's a wife, whatever. But I think it's something to having somebody to speak life over the situation that you only see destruction in. Like, because I can only see 2 inches ahead of me because of all the fog. And I have a brother here who will grab my hand and say, I got you, bro. I can see up ahead. And so I think that, you know, I love this conversation today, because it's just like one of our many our many moments of like just talking about what's going on in life and allowing others to see that this is what it looks like, you know. But what else is on your heart today?
Great question. I had a really interesting, I've been thinking about it and praying for this man. Very interesting situation. This is like one of the coffee shop moment almost.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm driving down Park Road, and I see this huge ball of smoke coming up. I'm like, this ain't good. There's a fire going on.
Right.
And it's like just starting. So me being the person that I am, I'm going to go check it out.
Right.
I'm going to see what's going on.
Right.
So it's actually right before South Mech High School. And I pull in to South Mech's parking lot, and then there's a fence, and there's this huge apartment fire going on. Huge. And like there's maybe one, fire truck there. I climbed up in a tree to get a better view. And I really, in that moment, like 5 years ago, I would have been like, it would have been like thrill seeking just to like witness it and take photos or whatever. But in that moment, I felt called to pray for the people in the place, the firemen, to keep them safe, to watch over them, for it not to spread. And so then I climbed down out of the tree. I was walking back to my car, and this guy walks up, 65-year-old black man. He came walking over from the neighborhood. They heard the explosion. And he comes over and he's asked me, what's going on? What are you doing here?
Right.
And I said, well, I saw the fire, and I came over and decided to pray for the firemen and the people in the apartment building. And he looks at me and he said, are you a Christian? And I said, yes, sir, I am. And he said, kind of choked up. He said, I used to be a Christian. And he just started crying. And I was like, I put my hand on his shoulder, and I said, what happened? What drew you away? And he said, when I was going through the most painful moment of my life, I didn't feel like he was there. He wasn't there for me. And I said, I know exactly how that feels. I know exactly how that feels. And then another guy, one of his neighbors, came up and had heard the explosion and came up. And so the conversation kind of got interrupted. And I said, well, what's your name? And I said, I'm Rudy. What's your name? And he didn't want to give me his name. And then we just started talking with his neighbor. And then I was getting ready to leave. And then he introduced himself to me. He told me what his name was. And I just was like, man, wow, God is like right here in this moment.
Yeah.
And it's my hope and my prayer for that man, that brother, to find his way back.
Yeah.
To find his way back. I don't know why I felt compelled to share that story, but it's been on my mind.
Yeah. No, I think, I truly believe that God, once again, back to the beginning of this conversation, God positions us to put him back in front of people who don't want to go back and talk to God because they believe that he wasn't there when they went through the toughest times. And I think even you saying that I'm praying and not just like, oh, I'm just up here just making sure. No, it reminded him of a time even when he didn't think that God would answer his prayers, and he prayed out and he cried out to God. And here it is, a guy who's in the same exact position, praying for others, not yourself, but praying for others in a situation that you don't know what's going on. And this guy, it almost probably reminded him of a time where he sat there and he prayed as well. And God can use it. I think it's like throwing down a seed of like, been there. I know what that's like. You're not alone. That allows God to call people back home to him. Allows his pursuit of them, the distance to become almost shorter. Of like God saying, I've always been here. I know you didn't think I was there, and you probably thought that it was there, that situation was going to kill you. But I was there even to hold you up through the worst time of your life. And I know that there's, I know people listen that are going through the worst times of their lives. And they believe that God has gone absent, or he's taken this one off. Like, oh, well, yeah, I had other situations going on that I had to handle. I'm sorry, I got to leave you in this by yourself. Not realizing that God is even in the heartbreak. He's there even when you don't feel, when you feel all alone, to let you know that this world, the things that happen to us, the situations that have come because the sin in this world, he still wins, even in spite of what happens around us and what goes on in our lives that we feel like was out of even God's control, because he didn't change it for the better. He didn't change it to work the way we wanted it to work. And I think that's a hard one for all of us. I mean, that's when you're going through it, it's not a lot I can say, oh, well, yeah, but God's still good. But if he was good, where is he at now? Like, what is good about this? Yeah. But
another thing is, I know you go to Elevation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started listening to his book, Furtick's book, Be the New You.
Do the new you.
Do the new you.
Yeah.
Do the new you. So I'm trying to do the new me in the hardest places, and that's at home, right? So
yeah,
like I can be, I can be a total jerk when I go home.
Yeah.
And I hate that about myself, and I see that in myself, and so I'm trying to do the new me where I'm being obedient, and it's my hope and my prayer that my children, my boys, come to know the Lord.
Yeah.
And they're not going to know him or come to know him unless they see it in how I am and in what I do, and not in what I say.
Yeah.
And that's really hard.
No, for sure.
And you sometimes, I can be a hypocrite or feel like a hypocrite.
Yeah.
So that's
facts.
That's hard.
Yeah.
That's real hard.
Well, I think you should acknowledge the step that you've even taken to so I remember one time I was talking to you and I was like, you have to believe there's another you besides the you feel like you wrestle with all the time. Because if you don't believe that you can do the new you, then you can't even step into that, because you believe you already, and this is who I am. So I think a lot of times we're wanting to get to I want to go from this me to the new me, and we miss the fact that there was a point where the me I am now didn't even believe that I could be anything else. And so I think that's just a huge step of you even saying hey, look, I'm trying to do the new you. And the mindsets that are in that book, if anybody's ever read it or wanting to read, man, listen to me. Those mindsets will blow you away. But it's not just here's some mindsets, try them on. It's examples. I think that's what really encouraged me, the fact that oh, wow, Stephen Furtick was very vulnerable in that book about his own struggles. and even listening to that episode, you sent me a podcast episode recently where it was just breaking it all down of sometimes we believe we know ourselves so well that we can't see that there's a new you to even go on a journey with, of realizing that I'm tired of being this person. I'm tired of showing up this way. Is there a chance that I could possibly be more than what everybody has experienced? Even if it's a process of getting there, because I think the process is what we sometimes don't really want to go on, because when you hear the word process, it's so it's not instantaneous. It's not like I can just sprinkle this over me and I become that guy. But I'm just curious, how has that spoke to you, and what are you doing now to even begin those strides of doing the new you, and maybe even what was one of the mindsets that just stuck with you? I think, I know one that we recited earlier in this conversation. We were talking about joy and how my joy is my job. Yeah. Yep. I was okay, wait, so you mean nobody else is supposed to provide me joy? It's not supposed to show up like the milkman brings it every day and just drops off joy at my doorstep? It's so if it's my job, then that means that I am supposed to find joy in everything that I'm going through and everything that tries to take my joy, or as some people try to call it, happiness, which I have, not to say I've distanced myself from it, but I recognize that my happiness is really dependent on what's happening. And so that can come and go. That can change. It can change at any second. But like, I can still find joy, which is my job, in the craziest situations. Like, man, we don't have any more money. We've almost reached the month, and I'm trying to stretch it till we get to this next paycheck, and I can still be joyful. Like, that's a choice. That's my job now, in spite of the what we're wrestling with. You know, my boss has been giving me a hard time, and he's adding a lot of stress, and I can be joyful despite what's going on. So I think that right there was just that one. And curious, what do you think about this one? Okay, how did it go? God has given me everything I need for the season that I'm in.
That's actually what I was trying to say, but I couldn't remember it. So that was the one. Yeah, and just so having that mindset.
Yeah.
That he's giving me what I need.
Yeah.
But I got to take action. So,
yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I've been focused on creating a morning routine that involves, you know, meditation, scripture, gratitude. Mm-hmm. And that quiet time has really been, that solitude has been awesome. It's been feeding me.
Yeah. How do you think that that's going to in turn feed your family based on what you're now filling yourself with?
Well, so hopefully somebody who is more patient and more loving.
Yeah.
And isn't quick to anger. And judgment.
Yeah.
Anger and judgment.
Yeah.
Less of those.
Do you feel like those are like those two things are like the struggles that almost like you hold on to that are part of the identity that you have now?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm ready. I want to break free of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hyper aware.
Yeah. No, I think that's important, because think about how many people are not even aware of what's causing the issues in their life. They recognize life's not good, but they don't even know where to start or what could be causing that. And I think in the process, it's like the process of like realizing that I'm the common denominator. Here's what I'm bringing to the situation, and expecting good to come out of it. And how I need to address these things to begin to allow others to experience something else that flows from me. And at the end of the day, I think it's me, the guy we're talking about time, I was like, isn't it always the wives? Isn't it always our kids? Like, that's how we always want to start it. It's them. If they would change, if they would act right. And the truth is that we don't, not that we don't ever, because I hate that line, but very seldomly do we recognize that it starts with us. Regardless of like what's coming from that direction, it starts with us and what we're pouring out. Okay, but they're still not like appreciating it. Okay, but does that mean you're gonna stop pouring it though? like does that change your pour? I think it's incredibly important for us to still pour from what we recognize as like, this is who I want to be, and the person I want to be is going to pour this regardless whether people appreciate it or not, whether they want it or not, whether they understand it, or even if they're just like, all right, I'm a little cautious because you're way different than I remember, and so you're still building trust with me to even allow me to come closer to believe this is who you are. And so sometimes it takes constant pouring of who I want to be, even when the response is not always what I expect coming back. And so
I love that metaphor.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take it home with me tonight.
No, seriously. Seriously. Look at it from a standpoint of like, everything you're putting in now is starting to dilute all of who you've been. Like I've seen these metaphors online or social media where like when you take a glass of water and it's brown water and you keep pouring like clear water in there, eventually clear water begins to just be full of, the glass becomes full of clear water. And so it's like, okay, how can I begin to take all of the goodness that I want in me, all of who I want to be, and flush all of who I've been out, so that when I begin to pour into others, they get who I want them to experience, even if it takes a while for them to say, I think this might be the new him. Like first couple days, I was like, but like now I'm starting to believe like I don't know what's happened, but like I'm feeling it though. I like it. I like this new guy. And it's not just about them liking it. It's like, yo, you begin to like it. Like, I like this new guy. I want to be this new guy. I don't want to go back to that old guy. And I think there's so much in that, man. I say that because I'm on the other side of continuing to flush, recognizing that even when you think your glass is clear, there's moments where somebody drops like a drop of food color and it starts to like just try to seep back into your glass, and it's like you have to be mindful to say, oh no, I gotta work that out. Like, or something comes back, oh man, I gotta work that out. It's never gonna be perfect, it's never gonna be 100% clear, but it's me being conscious and having, once again, brothers around me who can be like, hey bro, when did you start doing that again? Why is it that you going back to that? What's that about? What's that about? Like holding you accountable to the guy you said, I want to be the new you. So I'm going to hold you accountable to the new you. Like, you want to be that guy? If you'll give me permission.
I'm giving you permission right now.
There you go. All right. You give me permission to hold you accountable to the guy you want to be. And now whenever you start to like share things, I can say, but do you think that would lead you to the guy you're desiring to be and not the guy you've been? Because I know we've had this conversation before. I'm like, dude, the way you see you is not who you are. And so as long as you see yourself that way, then you're going to stay that way. And so I love this journey that we've been on, because even today, like, I'm just learning this now, and I'm like, yo, that's awesome. Like, and if I had known that, I'd have probably given you I had a couple copies of the book here that, like, because I recognize how much that book began to change my mindset on things. Books like that one, and I'm sure there's others, but that one, I trust it. I know the author, and I love what it's done for so many people. So no, that's awesome,
it's powerful.
Bro. It is
very powerful.
It is. It really is.
Dude, I love this.
Yeah,
I love you.
Yeah.
When are we going bike riding?
I'm bike riding. So and he's asking me this.
You can get back to me.
Look, just for the records, it was 25 degrees this morning. So when are we going bike riding? Okay, so the way my body is set up is that my legs don't actually work under 32 degrees. But no, we're going. That's going to be a thing. Matter of fact, I even told my neighbor, I was like, this year I'm going to get back on that bike. I'm going to get back out there. And it's not even a New Year's resolutions. It is just, my wife has been lately saying, don't forget to take care of you. And somewhere along the way, sometimes we forget. We begin to pour into so many other cups that we forget to do those little things to take care of ourselves. So yes, that is a way of, like, a lot of people like, that sounds like torture. No, but it's also a way to take care of myself, because my physical health matters, my mental health matters, my spiritual health matters, and I can't just be focused on just my spiritual health and just expecting my physical health to be good. Like, no, I have to be intentional about focusing on all of them. And you are the guy to keep me physically moving. I know that about you, and so no, we're going to go bike riding. Matter of fact, we might even make it just another way for us to ride and encourage each other. So I look forward to it. But bro, I thank you for coming today, man. I thank you for sitting down with me. I know we do this all the time, but I appreciate you, more importantly, sharing with my audience. I appreciate you bringing your full self, bringing your vulnerability, bringing your tears, bringing just the guy I get to hang out with all the time to the table, and sharing him, gifting others with that guy to say, this is who Rudy is, and it also gives people who don't even know you, like you didn't know those people you were praying for, an opportunity to pray for you, to pray alongside you for the man you're wanting to be, the man you are continuing to chase after, not only God's heart, but also the way he's chasing after the heart that he put in you and the man you want to be in all of that. So
wow.
I'm excited for now. Like, it's just not me praying with you alongside you for what you're going to do and what God's going to do in your life, but now it's others who can say, man, I don't even know that guy, but man, I'm so proud of him. I'm going to pray alongside him. I want to pray and continue to believe for what God's going to do, not just in his life, but in the life of his kids, in the life of his marriage. And I fully believe that when brothers all listen in and we all continue to come together and think about those past guests, future guests, what they're going through, and them sharing this, I think the next step is like brothers just saying, hey, look, I'm gonna pray for that brother, man. I'm praying that what God continues to do in his life is just gonna be incredible. Like, this is just one of many conversations we're gonna hear from him. So yeah, more importantly, shout out where people can find you, man. Let everybody know. I mean, because you're doing some things too.
I'm starting. I'm not putting much pressure on myself. Just kind of having conversations with people.
Yeah.
I started a very rough and tumble podcast called The Inner Roundtable, and it's just raw and real, unedited, nothing fancy.
Yeah.
Just conversations about a lot of mentors of mine, people, strangers I meet, just doing life together and sharing stories and seeing kind of where it goes.
Yeah.
So you can find me at the Inner Roundtable.
Yeah. Awesome. How else can and you know, if they want to ping you, I think you're on all of them, right? TikTok.
Yeah, reluctantly. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, no.
But I'm on them just to, like, if I have a message, my mess turning into my message, then I want it to be on channels.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think the more the merrier. I think the more you spread it out there, the more people can find it and be able to experience something outside of what they normally experience.
Yeah, and if it just helps one person.
There it is.
You know.
There it is. That's how it is.
And if somebody wants to connect with me on any kind of mental health or serious, treatment resistant depression, come find me.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of experience.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, bro.
Honored.
Yeah.
And grateful.
This has been great. I'm excited about continuing to do these conversations, but I'm glad you guys got to sit in and listen to them today. Glad you guys got to just experience like what I get to experience, just what this looks like. And I pray that you don't just sit back and envious this, and you go out and you find you some men that you can begin to do life with. You can sit down and talk about not only like what you're going through, but even what God's brought you through. And more importantly, hopefully you begin to see God, or have others that can see God as he's taking steps with you and strides with you in your life, as he's taking strides with you in your journey, in your story. Even when it's hard for you to see 2 feet ahead of you, they can point out the moments where, wow, bro, you shouldn't be here. Wow, bro, I mean, did you even notice how that changed? So we love you guys. Hope you're blessed. Hope you are continuing to just share your stories. Allow your story not to fall or just fall on deaf ears. I think that stories are just not for podcasts. Stories are meant to happen around coffee tables. Stories are meant to happen at parks. So pray this story blessed you today. Pray this conversation blessed you. And we'll catch you on the next episode. Love you guys. Be blessed.
And that wraps up another episode of God's Glory and Men's Real Stories. I'm Justin Moore, and we want to give a huge thank you to all of you for tuning in and being part of our community. Your support means the world to us, and we hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as we did. If what you heard resonated with you, please consider subscribing and leaving a review on today's video. It really helps us reach more listeners like you. Don't forget to connect with us on social media at God's Glory and Men's Real Stories for updates, new episode clips, and to share your thoughts on today's episode. We love hearing from you. If this conversation happened to shed a light on past experiences of yours that may have been happy moments or maybe hurtful moments, feel free to keep the conversation going in the comments below, so as a community we can listen, pray with you, or point you to helpful resources. Join us next time for another great episode, and until then, let's give God the glory for all he's doing in our stories.